Hello, friends. How's everyone doing today? Hope you're well. We're doing very well.
Very well.
And today we're going to be talking about the hybrid children, as it's a common thing that we like to talk about, and that they like to talk about themselves through us. And we were really just called to make a video together to talk about the hybrid children and talk about the essence of play and utilizing the idea of play as a preferred modality or entrance point to connect with the hybrid children. Because really they're all about play. Mm-hmm. They're all about play. They're playing all the time. They're playing with you right now, and you might not even be aware of it.
They're freaking kids.
They're freaking kids.
Yeah. What do you expect?
Yeah. So the idea that they bring through is to show us how to be kids, once again. Whether we're, 10 years old or 70 years old, it doesn't really matter, because there's always that child that lives within us, each and every one of us. And I think we should first start with talking about actually what play is, or what the essence of play is, because to me it's very specific. So play is just simply an attitude. It's an approach to living your life that you take into every moment. And play is taking the circumstances that you are currently in and that surround you, and quite literally viewing it as a universal play of energies. And it's important to clarify that play isn't something that takes you away from a lack of acknowledgement when it comes to the more negative things in life. Play is actually a tool that helps integrate the light and dark. And that's what Ascension is about. That's what spiritual awakening is about. It's about the bridging of the light and dark. So play is a very powerful modality of not only synchronizing those two polarities, but in synchronizing those two polarities, you then bridge that connection at an even deeper level with the hybrid children. Do you guys want to share what play is to you?
Yeah, that was a good one. I really liked that. Yeah. I really liked that. Play to me is, in the adult stage, it becomes flow state. So in sports, I guess you could say like the will to win or something, but like that where you're just in the zone, that energy. So, but in its more pure state with no agenda, that would be play. So one of the added advantages, or to what you're saying, is kind of just being so present that like time disappears and you're engaged. So it's like the engagement of the now, the engagement of life, the engagement of whatever you're doing. And that means that it could be anything. So I like how you add it to like any circumstance, anything that you're doing. So what I would just add is that it's something that's in the moment that transcends past or future, which is where we start getting out of play, out of childlike nature. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And what about you?
I completely agree. Play, it's really also, for me, it's connected to humor.
Yeah.
And laughter.
Yes.
Very strongly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that in a society that has become very rushed and pressureful, I kind of see it like a pressure cooker. You know how sometimes it needs to go,
Yeah.
And sometimes you have people that have been through so much, they get to a point where they just start laughing. And they don't know why. They're like, okay, it just doesn't get any crazier than this. And I think that laughter is the first step back to play and kind of beyond the heaviness or how they perceived it, the circumstances being super heavy. And I think it's within our nature to kind of usher ourselves back to that actually natural state of us automatically. Somehow we always crave it, we always want it. Everybody knows what it is. I think that's also why if somebody's completely like choking with laughter, like in a good way, that you can hardly observe that without laughing along.
Yes.
Because it's contagious.
Yes.
And so it's within all of us already, and I feel like magnets we are being drawn to be that again, to really be that.
Yeah.
To not also like just want it, to be it.
Yes.
And we're on our way back to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another point that's coming up is that you don't need toys to engage in play. The circumstances that are presenting themselves in your life right here and right now are your toys. And that's all that it requires, is to start viewing those circumstances as your toys. And so we just had our hybrid child Amsterdam adventure here in Amsterdam. And one of the things, what does that say?
Change
It says
battery pack.
change battery. Okay, well.
Okay.
Oh no, is it like empty right now? Yeah, it's red completely. You see?
Does that mean it's dead?
No.
No.
Okay, we'll try.
We're still going.
We're still going.
Just continue.
Yeah, I'll just continue. So basically, one of the most powerful things that came through for me and that came through for us as a group is inviting the hybrid children to play along with you, once again, in your circumstances that are presenting themselves. And so the more that you invite this energy into your life, the more that you can start to tangibly notice the subtleties of their different frequencies. And that's really the thing, is like, it's realizing that the hybrids and your other galactic connections are always playing with you all the time. So our camera just died, which meant that we had to take the circumstance that was presented to us and get creative and play in a way that would allow us to continue the video. So where do we go? Where do we plug in the camera? Where do we put the voice recorder? This is another, well, practical way in that sense to play when circumstances present themselves that are somewhat unexpected.
Yes.
And that's what we do. So that's a good example of that. So anyway, it's about taking the circumstances that are presenting themselves to you and using them as a tool, using them as a toy and a tool, and inviting the hybrids to play with you in all of the given circumstances, because they're very, very, very curious. They're very curious about what it is that is actually going on here on this planet. And our circumstances are incredibly different than their circumstances. And because they're in such a positive vibration, they see all of this stuff, even all the pain, even all the turmoil, as things to play with, things to work with, energy to transform.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Want to add anything to that?
So true.
So true.
So true. Yes. This is even, wow, the play just continues. There's this pigeon, like, putting all the leaves and shaking the water on us. Yay! So, blessings. Yeah, the world that they live in is so harmonious and flowy, but you know, they have specialized themselves in dealing with challenges, and when they see something, it's almost immediately recognized as a game, if not immediately. So I think asking our higher selves, and through that our connection with the hybrids or other ET elements that are connected to us, is an amazingly fun way of looking at Earth circumstances and shining a different light on them, looking at them from a different angle. And that may sound very out there, but it, like we just did, like moving our setup to be able to continue the video, that is actually owning your creation. And it is as simple as that. So it is really not about being out there. And connecting to these other parts just adds to the magic. And it's anyway all us, eventually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe you wanted to say something about that as well, Bridget?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, too, the hybrids, from their perspective, looking at ours, it's neutral. Like, so, something, like cat just jumped on the roof. Like, something that could be, like, crazy for us, it's, like, they don't have those definitions or ways of perceiving things. So, like, to them, it's not. And they're curious, and so there's a way of, like, thus when we're tapping into, like, the hybrids, seeing from their perspective and going, okay, well, from, like, this alien perspective or from this childlike perspective, like, what I am experiencing in this situation is, like, nothing, or it's, like, laughable, or it's just, like, weird and funny. And so I think putting ourselves in their shoes and letting their energy and frequency, like, come and interact with us will create a whole different perspective to the conditioning and programs like that we live in our daily lives.
Yes.
And also inviting the hybrid children in to any challenging circumstances, if you're open to it, will immediately help you shift those circumstances. Because you go, hey, do you guys want to play? And they're like, well, yeah, of course we want to play. And then they come in, and if you can feel them. And as I said before, at first it sometimes can be subtle, but that comes after just time of inviting them in and getting used to their frequency. but you start to be able to feel them very tangibly, and they help you through being who they are and being who you are. Of course, they help you to shift those things around you, and it becomes very effortless and very fun, and you start to be able to once again see everything as the play of energies that it is.
Yes.
And the other thing that is coming up very strongly is actually something that you mentioned yesterday, and the first day of our workshop, which was that it's important to get familiar with the hybrid's frequency, but equally as important to understand what are some of the things, especially in the vein of extraterrestrial and spiritual information, that takes you away from connecting with that stream of energy. And one of those things is connecting to a lot of the denser conspiracy, evil, alien agenda stuff. All of that has its place. Believe me, when I first started to open up to these experiences, the first thing that I gravitated to, because I was at a much different vibration, a more negatively oriented vibration, the thing that I was attracted to was what's going on with the government, what's going on with the space, and the secret stuff over here, and the conspiracy thing that guy's doing over there. I was interested in that. But as I started to live more from my heart, and I think that that's true for you guys as well, you stop really putting so much importance on that. It's not that that stuff isn't there, it's just that you see that it really isn't that beneficial to dwell on that kind of stuff. Because being interested in that kind of stuff, for most humans, means that you go down this really, really long and deep negative spiral of getting consumed by that information. It's a devouring type of frequency, and it's very different than the hybrid frequency, because the hybrid frequency, it brings you up and out and to express yourself. That information, it makes you go like, like that. That's exactly, it's like
and,
that kind of energy.
And it can be subtle at times, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that, like, it's tricky. Like, that's part of its nature, is that it seems resonant, and you're like, yeah, this is just like the next level, or like the next new energy, and then it's like, and then it feels good, and actually it might be in like accordance at first,
Sure.
and then it might change.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too, is like syncing, whether it's a certain person you listen to or a certain like information, whatever it is, it can be resonant for a second and then change. So I think, because that's part of what happens, is we get used to like, oh, I listen to this person, or oh, I like this author, or whatever this is, and that could change like in 6 months, and the information's coming from a different stream, or you're no longer you're at a different vibration. So it's like that constant checking in to see if it's in alignment.
Yes.
And when it's not, like, I mean, only lack of presence and lack of like feeling, and then this like habitual pattern would keep you in something that isn't resonant.
Right.
So it's like checking in and being able to let go of that thing that you used to like, but isn't resonant.
Right. And of course, maybe the next question that comes up for people that are watching that is, how do I know if something isn't resonant? And a really simple way to check in with yourself to see if what you're subscribing to is aligned with you, if it makes you feel very liberated in your being, or very calm and very content, that means that thing is for you. There's an energetic resonance with that. If your body responds in a way where you're literally feeling like this, like you're literally shutting yourself down, that means that it's time to move on. And that doesn't have to be a biased experience. It's just a simple noticing, this isn't aligned with me anymore. I used to like this, as Bridget said, maybe at first, okay, but not really anymore. And you just simply move on.
Would you say that there are two kinds of curiosity, in a sense? That's my experience in a way. So you have the curiosity that makes your heart beat faster, and you're like, oh, really, I cannot have enough of this information, and I'm curious to explore it more, and it's fun, and I'm looking forward to it, because it feels like a present around the corner again and again. But then there's also the kind of curiosity, you're genuinely curious, but it's more coming from, I feel I need to know more of this, because if I don't, something bad might happen.
Yeah.
Or I might miss out.
Yeah.
And then I'm too late.
Yeah.
And these are typical
Yes.
energies that tell you, of course your curiosity is like a genuine thing, but it can come from different places. You may be motivated to dive into a certain information from a different point of view, and that's a good one to check in with.
Yeah, I like that.
Why do you want to know more about this?
Yeah.
And sometimes when it's motivated for the motivation is wanting to know more because you feel you are without something, it oftentimes actually manifests in a type of craving. And it responds in your body as that sort of craving sensation, which is a different sensation. It can be subtle at first, but you'll learn how to navigate that as you're just on your path. The craving feels different than a genuine heart-centered desire.
Yes.
So be very mindful with that.
Yes.
Always check in with yourself. And
Yes.
once again, if it's making you feel fully liberated, then that's for you.
Yeah, and if it feels like more like an addiction and it's almost hard to stop in a negative way, then that's probably not so much for you. But of course, it's still up to you whether you want to like continue that or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about play. Play is really the key out of this anxiety trap.
Yeah.
That is in so many places and through so many channels being offered to us in this everyday society. But the beauty is that we have the key, like everybody has their own key in their own hands.
Yeah.
And by playing, you look beyond the obstacle. You have already opened the door. You're holding the key, you're looking at a closed door, but with your curiosity, you're already behind it. Yeah. You don't even need to do anything for it, really. You can just be yourself.
Just it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all that is required.
So maybe some last advice for people who feel there is very super little play in their life right now. What is the first step that they can take?
Return to what you liked as a kid. Like
Yes,
simply put, like
number
path of
one.
least resistance, because there's different forms of play that come in, like that you're like, oh, I didn't even know that this was available, but momentum of the past or momentum of something that's worked before is like the quickest way, I would say. So whatever you like to do as a kid and just like start doing that, and then it'll build the momentum for more things to be playful.
Oh, I love that one.
That is beautiful.
Yes. And a bucket list. I can actually recommend that.
A bucket
like
list.
that.
Make a
That's
bucket
really
list.
cool.
Just make it. Just go buy every single thing you ever wanted and never allowed yourself to receive.
Yeah.
And even writing it, just the writing itself, may bring you more in touch with your own desires. If you for a while, temporarily, if you have temporarily forgotten what your desires actually are, because some people are that, like flattened out in a sense, because they have numbed their sensations so long. But just like you said, the childhood things, everything along the way that ever stood out to you, go do it. If it's in any way, shape or form a little bit possible to take a step in that direction, see what flows towards you.
Yes.
My example, there's, I'm doing the dishes. Oh, I hate doing the dishes. 2, I'm doing the dishes. Oh my God, I'm doing the dishes. It's amazing. That's the difference. It's just like that. So my advice is just to adopt that attitude towards everything. And that's a choice. That's a conscious choice. And the other thing that I want to say about conscious choice is that whether or not you can feel the hybrid kids, bringing it back down to the hybrid kids, whether or not you can feel the hybrid kids at this current now moment, you just have to decide whether you think you're crazy, whether you feel like you're going to be scolded by the people around you. You have to decide that that is your preferred reality. You have to decide that they exist and that they're here to help you. And the moment that you choose that with all your conviction, then you can start to have access to these kinds of experiences. But you have to choose. You have to choose to play.
And then you show up on their radar and they can come and find you, because we are the ones, again, that are holding the key.
Right.
Like, we have to open the door first, at least a little crack, so that they can come and peek in, and say hi, or like stick in a finger. Because that's how it begins. It begins super subtle, like you said. Maybe like a shiver for one person, or a feeling of a presence on one side of your body, whatever it is for you, just for a moment. And that's where it begins. So you can hug that just as much as, there's no difference in importance between that and somebody who is having full-blown visions. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you cannot love the first step, then the other steps are not going to show up, because then you're not acknowledging what you've already got. And that's pretty important too.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
So, yay!
Yeah.
There you have it.
Play!
Play all day for the sake of play.
Play!
Play because you exist. Play because you're infinite. play
Yay.
because it's really the only damn thing to do.
That's that.
And with that being said, bye. Love you all.
Adios.
Adios.
That was great.
Cool.